Hello guys and welcome to the channel. This is Babarul. In today's video we are talking about the Untamed. And if we are talking changes, this is probably the best changes to come with this beta testing. I didn't really play all the classes yet, but let me just tell you, this is probably gonna be the best. It turned from completely useless to play to something actually with a full role and a lot of enjoyment coming out of it, from its skills, from its mechanics, and how it's offering different role from other rangers build and what we are used to play. So if they go with the same approach and not much changes, it probably can even be my main in End of Dragon, and if that changes for the best, even better. And if the worst, I'll probably let you know on release. I already had two videos, one talking about specific problem or mechanic, Arianet completely fix it, great, it's over, and the other video was the review of the class and everything about it. So I'm gonna go about everything I discussed and everything I thought was a problem and what they did about it, if they changed it or if they didn't, and what they should do, or if they should change other things or leave it as it is, and discuss different feedbacks that I heard about from the community and say my own opinion about it. And feel free to tell me what do you think I missed, or if you don't agree or anything in the comments, so we can have discussion and I see other people's point of view, no problem. Now, the problems I had with the Untamed was the unleashed bit skills. I had some problem with them, I'm gonna go into them in a second. Not all of the problem on the mechanic of the bit got solved, but most of them are, and they are in a really good position right now. I hope they get better, but they already really fine. I can accept them even if they are this way right now. The weapon, and by the weapon I mean the hammer and how it works, the functionality, and the other weapons that they didn't get unleashed or there is no point in them. Like the whole weapon system had some problems and they are mostly solved, if not completely. Like I still have few adjustments or things I want to talk about, but that part also got fixed. The utility skills, and they are mostly beautiful right now. You would love to use some of them even, but also again some skills that didn't change as much. The traits are feel really now impactful, and we had some problem on how low they do and that they don't add up to the class this much. But right now you're gonna see a lot of things that are actually good, even if some of them maybe not on part. So let's discuss every point in detail. One of the biggest things that gonna take time from me is the mechanic of the bit and how it works. So let's get that out of the way at the start. First, there was no attack my target button, it got removed. I think maybe by mistake, maybe they didn't think it's gonna be a big deal because of this teleport or whatever, but this mechanic style is because it's already the Untamed thing, it's not for other rangers, but it was obviously a really big mistake, and everyone hated it. Every ranger main thought it was a really big problem. At least if you're a good player enough that you can control your bit position and really use it to as much advantage as possible, you thought this was a horrible change. Obviously ArenaNet responded to that and they have fixed it and give us more skills or buttons that we can keybind, and it worked really well as you see it in the picture right now or in the video. Obviously it's in a different keybind style, like it's not the same. Like if you're running Soul Beast for example, as you see the numbers are different. Like attack my target is 0 for me, but if I'm running Untamed, that's Venom's Outburst. Attack my target is letter O. So they can make it the same numbers or leave it as it is. I guess we're gonna have to train our muscle memory again. But that's it. I'm already having them keybind and I can use them, but I just keep getting mixed up a bit. But that's obviously like almost only the first day. Now for the unleashed skills themselves. The skills are really fine. They are good. On the design aspect, the idea of the bit shadow stepping to your target, sticking to it, applying both power damage and condition damage, so you can build in both, like in PvE at least. The boon removal, which is a mechanic that you're gonna stick with right now, and you never had it as a ranger, so I guess it's a bonus. And the projectile mitigation bubble that can actually move right now. It's not sticking, like the bit move and move with it like a shield. It works really well. It's something that really hard to get as a ranger. It's not normal that you would have a projectile mitigation, maybe a druid staff or X5, which not really the same thing, and you get stuck to the ground. So this thing is just nice. But however, the second effect of it is that if your enemy is disabled, and by disabled I mean actually disabled, not apply a disable to it, so you don't get to do a knockdown for 2 seconds on an enemy that doesn't get CC'd because they have stability or a defiance bar for PvE or something, and you get the second effect. No, it will not happen, even for conditions. So it will happen on every actual disable, so even fear and taunt. But if you apply taunt or fear on an enemy that doesn't get disabled, the second effect will still not happen. And the second effect is low value as it is. It is basically slow. We get hit slow over the heal skill if we're running something like survival. It is a good thing, but never really happen. In PvE, it will happen only to enemies that like small enemies, like up to bronze or silver, nothing with defiance bar. But against defiance bar, you want the CC from chill, you want it from slow. They already choose conditions that can break defiance bar, but will never work. And once the defiance bar is broken, yes, they will apply, but they have no value right now because the enemy doesn't affect by them at all. Maybe they will still work in competitive, but they don't feel impactful. It's basically the same problem with the Untamed design that didn't change. They took it and they changed everything about the utility skills, they changed about the weapons, the trait, but those things were left as they are. But they need to feel at least more impactful. Even if they work in some situation, in most situations, the skill is empty. It do specific mechanic or specific thing, but that extra line, it doesn't reward you in anything. Landing your CC will not do you any good. So I hope that will change. But some of the feedback here in the community right now, or even since the last beta, is we can get that changed across the archetype. So you would get, just like Soul Beast, you would have, for example, Deadly that give you condition, you would have supportive that would give you healing, stuff like that, and consistent skill with the archetype. Like every bear will have specific skill and something like that. I hope they never consider this. Honestly, I'm gonna be honest with you. It's a problem. It's good on paper to not be stuck with the same skills, but there is a specific problem with changing through the archetype, that you can have different archetype at any given time. And that's actually the smart thing to do at this point, which means you would have two different set of skills that you would have to use, and then move the unleash to access the other skills. So you would immobilize or do damage, and then you move your bit and then use the other skill, and then go from the unleash to the other skill, so you would use them again. Even so, the unleashed got fixed with 1 second only right now, so it doesn't reward just spamming clicking skills like Soul Beast on release or stuff like that. It was a really bad problem. I already talked about it in the last video about the Untamed. So even so, it will fix that a bit, so you would have this spam through one bit. You would still wait for this cooldown to swap bits only to access those few clicking from skill to another. You would it's not even predicting thing, it's not skill thing. You will reward yourself, just you need to empty your skills. The reward comes from pressing all your buttons at this point. It's not about when you're gonna need them. There's some builds maybe utilize that if you have one bit for CC and the other purely for damage, but most builds will not, and especially on what kind of skills we'll have. If we're gonna change those skills, I hope it will be something like traits, so all the time we would have only one set of them, not two sets according to the bits. So we don't fall back to this problem that happened with the Soul Beast and the first design of the Untamed. And if we don't, I'm completely fine with keeping those skills, but two sets of different skills on two different bits is a really bad idea if you are a ranger main. Let me tell you, it can feel powerful, but it's not a skill-based thing. It's not good to play around. It's just annoying. It's just who can click their skill faster. Even PvE rotation, you just empty them, keep empty them. It's not a great thing to have. And that's all what I want to say for the unleashed skills. They are thematically good. They work as intended. They are good and powerful, impactful a bit because this one is now moving even. This one got adjusted at 180 now. It doesn't show you 900. So they fixed the tooltip that we talked about in the last video, because the tooltip was wrong. So we thought, a lot of people, I was one of them, thought it can be done from range, like Entangle, the elite skill. So at least now we know it's melee, so it just the most impactful thing to do is to press 1 and do it, so the bit will teleport and then cast the other one to basically remove bones. So it's fine, it can land easily, it's not the end of the world, but I was really hoping it would be that strong, but whatever, it's a balancing, I guess. Now let's move to the second point of that, which is the utility skills. Utility skills for the Untamed did not reward that much play. What I mean by that is they had one technically style. They do something. Depending on how you use them, you would get value. So the spores, for example, was one of the really tempting to use, but really actually bad to use. And there were worse. So let me give you an example why. The first edition, for example, you would just put it. it will do really decent damage and cripple. If a target hit by all of them, the 6, it will get knocked down. This was a constant problem with the Untamed that you're gonna notice it with other things. Like the trap here, it will put vines around the target they can't get out of. Just that. Nothing else. It doesn't do anything else. So the problem with the design, it's like it has to work exactly as intended. Doesn't miss almost a single hit to do something useful, to do exactly what it needed. And even if it did, the damage was pretty low. It was PvP centered design that doesn't really work. So you would waste utility skills just for something like a single CC. How that would even make sense? It was really bad, honestly. But right now, those skills became doing much more, so you can use them for different things. Yes, you can do this CC and catch people in it, so you would kite them and leave, or you catch people in it, so you start hitting them. And depending on what you want from the skill, if you are unleashed, you would get quickness. If your bit is unleashed, you would get resistance. So you use it if your bit is unleashed to kite around, so people can't catch you and you have resistance, they can't cripple you, chill you, or immobilize you, you would be running away and they can't follow. If you want to hit them, if you're trying to lock them so you would do your damage, you be unleashed and you do it, you get the quickness, and then you start with your damage on them like that, using everything or resource you get. So you can use it for the boons, you can use it for defense, you can use it for offense, and you're gonna find this theme across all the utility right now. All the cantrips can be used defensively or offensively. They offer too much, and you can even build a bit into them with a single trait line that now dedicated to them, which we didn't have before. There was nothing for the cooldown or trait or any other value, you just use them or not. Some of them obviously still not that great, like nature binding. The vines are strong through the quickness, but keep in mind that I'm running mostly Diviner and stuff like that, so I have a lot of concentration, 43% boon duration, and that's a lot. But it gives you a really decent amount of quickness or resistance, so it offers a lot. And if you trade the skills, they will give you all barrier on application to you and your bit, so it gets you this style of being more tanky. And it goes around with every skill of them. Like the spores right now, you get the barrier, but you also can give yourself might if you are unleashed, or protection if your bit is unleashed, so you can cast it and just get the protection, so lower damage while running away and the enemy have to step in it or something. Or you can simply cast it on the enemy to get might and get more damage to yourself. And even it put bar damage and poison damage, so it's usable with both styles of gameplay right now. So they even help you build into the condition style. It was only a power style, it didn't work condition play at all, and that got changed, which is just a huge salute to ArenaNet that they actually looked into that. And we didn't have a stun break, which was one of the problem, but now we have it on the condition cleanse. So we can get barrier, we can condition cleanse everything for gaining vulnerability, and it's now defensive. Whether you want to defend yourself by cleansing condition or defend yourself by stun break or both, it's taken with this. So they didn't add the stun break to the teleportation, but fine, it can be aggressive only, and now you can grant yourself might if you're chasing a target with it, so you'd hit it, or grant yourself regeneration if you're kiting a target or kiting an enemy with it on an ambient creature or something, so you would get regeneration. And the fact they decided to put only one stun break, like most of the other classes that we've seen, and they put it on the defensive one, so this skill will not be wasted for just a stun break, or you waste it to chase target and now you don't have stun break, or put it in both, so you would have everything stun break probably, and put more into the full stun break style rangers that we have seen in a lot of power builds, so it will reward power more than condition. The fact that they didn't do that show you how much they think even about balance, and like sometimes ArenaNet can show us that they know what they're doing. And I think this is really smart choice of things here, at least for those two skills. If we're not talking about the whole class, those two skills choices of design at this point is really decent. And the elite now actually fixed the biggest problem with it. It was that every hit you do will lower the cooldown by 1 second. So in order to get an actual value of this much defense, it have to be constant. Not 100% uptime, but at least something you can do most of the time. Especially if you're playing power, so you can be a bit glassy. But that means you would have to dedicate everything you do, your weapon choices, your skills activation, everything just for this skill. That will ruin rotations, and even if you create a rotation around it, it will never be effective or efficient as much. And comparing to something like Soul Beast, we already discussed that it was basically a nerfed Doliac stance. But right now, it applies both you and your bit, and the bit skills also count to it. And guess what? This skill is already 5 hits to 5 targets. This skill 5 target single hit, and this one's already 5 target. And the other hits, depending on the bit choice, if one of them at least you use it with can have multiple bucket hits like this is 10, or Jacaranda's even insane, 4 or 5 targets, not a single target. Hits like this can do a lot. So, and you can also do more with your weapon choice, like this for hammer exactly as 3 hits. The new ambush skill is 5 hits, multiple targets. The spore, for example, can hit a lot of targets if you're using longbow. So you can reset it very, very decently. You can build around it better. You can not care much around it if you want to use it to be just extra defense and some survivability and stability. It will just function right every time. And I think the cooldown is not really a problem. It maybe doesn't even need a lowering or anything, and doesn't need to increase. It's a good play around it. It functioned right, and it now also grant either super speed if you're trying to chase an enemy, or vigor to grant you more dodges, so you can lower the damage that you have from condition power. You can get stability, resistance, and everything, and you can even gain vigor for better dodges, and you can just survive. And combine it with a lot of things like rugged growth for more healing through protection on dodges. This skill actually heal you for 50% of the health you lost, and in competitive is 33%. So you need your health to go really low, and you need to have a really high health pool in order to get number out of it. And I was able to get to like 50k or 16k, something like that, which is really decent and really higher than any other skill that can possibly give you. But the value only happen once you lose almost all of your health at this point. And the notice mechanics allow this if you time it right, but you shouldn't do that, because you will never be able to fill your health to maximum again. You're just losing time at this point. And if you're trying to use it again while you only like 20% down or something, it doesn't heal you this much. It will never fill to 100%, unlike other skills. So I'm not really seeing that much use to it comparing to other healing skills and stuff, because of that percentage of what you lost kind of play style. Maybe if it was a direct percentage like 50% of your health, generally it would have been insane or something like that. But honestly, I don't see it blamed either over Troll Engwent or over We Heal as well. So let's move to the weapons. So the hammer is still the only weapon that have 2 sets of skill. If your bit is unleashed, you get the cripple, the double daze, which got fixed now. So if you land the first daze, you can move while applying the second daze, so you can try to catch up and lock your enemy and hit it with it. It doesn't feel sluggish to use. It feels snappy and nice. As you see, I'm gonna use it here, and as you see, the second hit, I move while hitting it, completely nice. And one of the complaints a lot of people said, and I was really talking about it, like it was bad, that there is no mobility. Was combined with the slow and the stubs and the small radius and everything. The hammer needed your enemy to be a standing rock that doesn't move and doesn't do anything in order to everything to hit. You could be just moving to an enemy that like a mob in PvE, and a simple move will make it miss. So right now they give us movement, and it is snappy and fast and beautiful, and it is on the CC, so it's great for chase. I know hammer not supposed to be everything can go down so easily, so they kept this one on a lower radius. I still think at least increase the radius. It is still slow, it's still low radius. Keep it slow, but at least it doesn't need to start on 120. The standard melee is 130. Like 120 is extremely small for a hit that's supposed to hit a group of 5 targets. There is no 5 targets gonna stand in 120. Keep it slow, fine. We're gonna apply the knockdown and then hit it if the enemy doesn't stun break, and even so the animation is 1 second, well fine, they will eat it. But 120 is extremely slow for a start. Even 360 is a bit slow for the end. The end will do only vulnerability at this point. At least keep the end not big, but increase 120. Keep it even slow, but 120 is just, I can't accept it, honestly. It's just weird. And this one, as we said, it works fine right now. It's 180 radius, so it's decent, it's snappy, it works fast, and you can move with it right now. This one is for damage purely. And all the damage numbers, I'm not really concerned much about them. It's a balancing, and they will shift until they land on something really good. They can even be adjusted after release, so I'm not talking about the numbers anyway. And even so, I already have a condition build, and the numbers are pretty decent, let me tell you. At least for my standard of open world PvE. So like we said, the hammer is the only weapon that actually got changed in skills. But right now we got added a new mechanic that is basically called Unleashed Ambush skills. It works something similar to the Mirage Ambush if you're familiar with, but a bit different. It's a ranger style. So for us, it only appears if we are unleashed, and it gives us 2-second window to hit or cast the skill. If you miss this window, the skill will not go on cooldown or anything, but you will not be able to hit it unless you are unleashed again, so you will access this window again. If you hit an ambush skill, every ambush skill, so the other weapon set you have, will also go on cooldown. You would have the normal skills only once you unleashed for 15 seconds. So it is a global cooldown for every ambush skill. You can use only one of them every 15 seconds. And this addition of ambush skill was one of the best ideas they've had. They didn't need to change all the skills of every weapon, they kept the hammer, but made every weapon fresh. They add something that actually we can build around. And even so, it was tempting to a lot of rangers, and probably me included, to see changes to all the weapons, but that would have been overwhelming amount of things to learn, and a lot, and you have to build into it, and the time of the animation, and the cast and precast of skills, and you can cast a skill inside another animation of skill. It gets really complicated to actually have this good. It would have been really hard for the Untamed to be actually this good usable, so it had a downside. So I think what they did was better. And those skills can give a lot, because right now, as you can see them, once I right click on this trait to show them, they can even build into condition. So condition weapons or hybrid weapons do respond to this with adding more condition and build into it. So Soul Beast basically merges a bit, get more trade points, get more skills for condition, so you would have bigger hits and bigger applications. But now Untamed also have it, so you can choose the Untamed over Soul Beast for basically being more tanky, even if the damage go a little bit less, because you also have other choices, and even can work for cleave. Axe, for example, is one of the best skills to be added. It do really high damage for bleed, and really smart design because it apply immobilize, so it will go really fine with something like split blade. It work right, it just feels right as a skill. So short bow, for example, is a bit on the weak side. So if you're running axe short bow, you'd probably try to every time to land the axe, not the short bow one, but it feel nice because it's a cleave thing on short bow, which nothing that usually happen. So those skills and the addition for something like poison here, and we already have poison from our bit skills themselves. It is possible to play condition. It's possible to get use a lot of playing condition as you can play it and power as it's designed. You have different options. You can do different things. There is a lot of build potential and it feels nice. The other traits, however, some of them still feel kinda pointless in a way, or really less impactful. Maybe they'll add to it, maybe they'll change it, maybe they'll not. I mean, not every trait's gonna be good. It's not like everything we have is good. This one, for example, it's both a vulnerability or weakness depending on who's unleashed, you or your bit, every time you disable a foe. And for just vulnerability and weakness, and you can't really build on them, like Weaver can increase their damage or a critical chance. I can't remember on weakness stuff Thief can do. We don't. We simply apply a condition and it doesn't do anything. So this trait feel less rewarding, like it doesn't do this much. But the barrier one example for cantrip, even so it doesn't reduce cooldown or anything, feel really rewarding, feel really nice. It make you want to take cantrip for higher survivability. You can front load and tank better and stuff like that. The last one, for example, at least can give you building too much on the damage of the bit skill, so it's basically increasing your damage. It doesn't feel this much like of increase. It doesn't feel so high or anything. And the adding blinding to BVE doesn't mean this much. And in World Episode or BVB, it basically works the same, but the bit doesn't do damage because the skills are extremely weak there. So that's also something that on the downside. So this one is good, maybe not good enough, some might think, but let's say it's good. Let's say they keep it as it is. The other two is not great. Like this one would be great in competitive, but it doesn't function right in competitive. This one is meh in any way you can or shape you can possibly use it. The miner, this one is beautiful, and I like this design. You see, it's consistent, it's a miner, you cannot escape it, it will always function no matter what weapon you use. Every time you use an unleashed ambush skill, you would do a life siphon damage and a life siphon heal. The damage is really decent and high, and also the heal. And then heal again for every target after the first one. And this damage and healing only happen if the skill actually hit. And it gives you a miner of more vitality. So it helps you being more tanky, and it helps you being consistently healing and tanking. So now you can keep getting barriers from time to time. Now you can keep getting healing. Every 15 seconds you can trigger this heal and extra damage. And this how build this theme of the Untamed. So I think this is a great idea, and it should be a miner. So there's not much to play around it, because this damage is too high. If you had something like this as a trait that you can choose, it will take this theme of tank style from the Untamed completely even if you can consider this choices, but what other choices? Not like we can build it to be an assassin with extra glass. Things like this can overlap, so I think it is really good that they put it here, so you can't avoid it and you will always get it, and the balance can actually be around it, so it is calculated through your damage through the ambush skills. So this skill I really love, and like I said, numbers can change and everything. It could be buffed, it could be nerfed. That's not really the point we are talking about it here. Now for the second trait, quickness or stability. If you disable an enemy, depending on your state again, exactly like this one for condition enemy, this one boons on you. Well, quickness is strong and stability also. At least it's thematic with the boon here, so you can build a lot of boon. You can even use this trait for boon and run something like we heal as one with nature magic, so every boon you get will be shared with your bit immediately. So even if you get might from this or protection, your bit get it too, and you can copy the boons between you two, so you can build around this. So there is value, there is builds to use it, so I think this trait is fine. Even so, disabling enemy and getting stability, unless you're outnumbered and there is a lot of enemy, what's the point? The enemy is disabled, is not like he's gonna disable you now. It's not too strong, but it is fine. It's a good trait, I'm not really complaining about this much. And cleansing condition got increased to 2 condition every 10 seconds on Unleash, and we can access Unleash on 1 second now, thank God. Because like I said in the start of the video, it fixed the problem with bit rotation. And 2 condition cleanses is really decent, and it can synchronize nicely with getting vulnerability from this one. And lastly, you can build into corruption and boon removal from this, so your bit can remove, and now not only that, it will make your own ambush skill remove condition. For the first time you can really build a bit into that in a ranger, which was never possible. I think it's a really good thing, even addition for PvE when you fight those mobs that have a lot of protection and stuff like that. You can be building to remove them, so you would have a lot of options through one class. You don't have to change your main, you can stick to ranger. The second minor also got fixed. It was a big complaint for a lot of people, and me included. This is supposed to be a tanky class, but this thing was a nerf because it could increase the damage coming to you and reduce your damage, so it make your damage is really low, which was already low in the first beta, and it can make you even get to hit more. How if you're supposed to be a tank if you can get more damage? Now it's a straight buff. It's either increased your damage or decreased to incoming damage. Beautiful trait, and it add more to the tanky styles that we explained. The last traits still beautiful. Fervent Force, the one that lowers the cooldown every time you cause a disable. It's 4 seconds in PvE and I think 2 seconds in the competitive. It works really decent with a lot of things, so you can lower the cooldown of this skill by hitting and by CC, and using something like longbow, which the ambush skill already lowers the cooldown of its skill, and you can combine that with something like quick draws to lower the cooldown of weapons again, and do a CC again. Like, there is a lot of things you can do with it and build around it, how far you want to go with it. And it also affects the bit unleashed skills, which is really decent and synchronized really well with trying to reset the skill. Traits can keep working in harmony with each other. And the healing one, really decent, but didn't feel this impactful. I didn't feel I do enough damage to really be tanky with it in PvE, even across like few mobs. Like you gather few normal mobs and still feel the hits, you know. So maybe they can increase it, maybe not. Even if it stays the same, it's probably exactly like the Bladesworn, but Bladesworn do insane damage, so this thing was healing him for like 12k or more. For us, it's a bit low, but it works nicely if you're trying to kite and then use longbow in PvE and stuff like that. So it is good. If you're gonna watch the best from this, probably it's always gonna be the lower cooldown. The last one is basically increased damage. I'm not sure the numbers if it's worth it to take it over this one, but it is a stacking buff, will give you pure damage and movement speed to you and your bit. Your bit also get it, and it's up to 5 stacks, so it is 15% increased damage even to your bit. So you can make your bit really feel powerful through the new skills that actually work from you. It considered your own skills, and through the traits and stuff, it can work really harmonically if you're running Beast Mastery or even combine it with Nature Magic and do the combo of boons and shares and copy and stuff like that. It can build into the bit, it can build into you, it feels decent. And there will be a condition build I will release as soon as possible for it, and I really like it. Like I said, it might be even my main if there is not much of a change or changes for the best only, not the bad. To End of Dragon, I'll probably be playing around the story, everything with my new Untamed, was this way. It's a little bit less damage than Soul Beast and a little bit higher or a lot higher in survivability. So this was Baby Roll. I'll be seeing you next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe to it and see for the other elite specializations and the new coming build. I'll be seeing you next time. Peace.